Hey, what up, Dodgers Nation? D-Mag here. We're going to talk about the Dodgers postseason bullpen in just a second. Who will make the Dodgers roster for the NLDS out of the pen? How will the starting rotation look? Who will be the Dodgers closer? We're going to talk about all of that in just a second. But before we do, we have some quick injury updates to get into, starting with Tony Gonsolin. So Gonsolin's been dealing with that forearm injury, and Dave Roberts said that Tony will throw 2 innings against live hitters on Thursday, and that's going to be a big step facing hitters. He's going to have an up-down, and if he passes that test, he'll probably have another bullpen session, and then he'll have a rehab assignment early next week. So that's definitely good news regarding Tony Gonsolin, because Dave said a few days ago that his role is really going to change at this point because there's not a lot of time to stretch him out to that full starter's role, but he hopes to contribute in some capacity. And so if you just look at the calendar, if he checks off every box and he doesn't have any setbacks, he's going to be able to make one start at the big league level before the playoffs begin. And I think it's clear at this point he's looking at a piggyback role in the postseason. You're not going to see him have a traditional starter's role, but hopefully he can come back and contribute in some way. And then the big update yesterday was about Blake Treinen. Here's what Doc had to say about Treinen's status.
I would say there's still an if. He's just not bouncing back the way any of us would have hoped. So that's kind of my hesitancy a little bit.
So that is not a very positive update regarding Blake Treinen, who's only pitched in 5 games this season. He's dealt with that shoulder capsule injury tear, and he was recommended surgery by Dr. Neil Elitrach. He elected to not have the surgery to try to rehab it, and it looks like he's struggling to get back there on the mound. Because remember, Doc said a few days ago that everything went well. They were going to activate him on Thursday, but that isn't the case. And yes, bullpen pieces, relievers, they don't need the same amount of time to ramp up like a starter would, but at this point I think it's clear that Blake Treinen, if, and that's a big if he comes back, it's going to be in a limited role. You're going to see him throw 1 inning possibly. You're not going to see him in back-to-backs. How effective will he be? Will his shoulder bounce back in the postseason after a few appearances? That's also a big question. So that is definitely going to be one thing to really look at and keep your eyes on if you're a Dodger fan down the stretch. Can they get Blake Treinen back, or will they shut him down? And how quickly can they get him back in time to get ready for October? And then there's Brusdar Graterol. So some positive news is he is being activated today on Thursday. And then also Yency Almonte is also on the road to recovery. He threw yesterday and he'll throw again Friday and is scheduled to throw Sunday in a rehab. So he's definitely on the med. And then Doc also mentioned that David Price is going to face hitters today and that he should be back soon. So that's why it's so difficult to put this postseason roster together when it comes to the pitchers, when it comes to the bullpen, because you just don't know who's going to be healthy and available down the stretch. But it will figure itself out. We know that. And the Dodgers do have plenty of depth, but it's definitely starting to get a little dicey, especially when you consider how close we are to the end of the season. Then yesterday, the Dodgers continue to look a little sloppy out there, and then Dustin May, he did not have a great start against the Diamondbacks. You were hoping that he would continue to make progress after he didn't allow a hit in his last start in 5 innings of work against San Francisco. Well, yesterday was definitely a step back in his progress. He allowed 5 runs on 7 hits, had 4 strikeouts and 2 walks, and the command just was not there. They were hitting his pitches in the zone. He was hurt by some 2-out walks. He wasn't finishing off guys with 2 strikes. You had the Diamondbacks stealing bases on him, but his big issue is falling behind in the count. If he gets ahead of the count, he's going to have success more often than not, but not really good on first pitch strikes, the worst in the league since he's been back. So he has to fix that command, but the potential is still there. He still flashed some filthy stuff. We know how dirty he is when he's right. He just does not have the best feel for that two-seam fastball. And Austin Barnes, he took a little blame for his lack of success out there, but still, Dustin May, he needs to continue to find it. And look, I think this is a part of the process when it comes to coming back from a Tommy John injury. It's not going to happen overnight. Sometimes it's going to be one step forward, two step back. Sometimes you have big progress in an outing. So it's all a part of the process. He still has an opportunity to have things click before the postseason begins. He's also complained about that elbow soreness. So I think he's a guy that, yeah, you might see start a game, but it could be a piggyback situation. I think you can expect that. Also, I think they'll maintain some flexibility to use him late in the game, possibly later in the postseason, if they can get a Tony Gonslin back and ready to roll. So definitely some big questions with this Dodgers bullpen and starting rotation at the moment, and they're going to have to figure things out very quickly here.
What's going on, Dodgers Nation? Doug McCain here. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DMac_LA. And welcome to another episode of the Blue Heaven Roundtable. As always, I'm joined by Mr. Clint Pasillas. You can follow him at RealFRG. What's going on, Clint?
Doing good. We're coming off of an ugly doubleheader, and I don't ever want to see doubleheader baseball again, but I am doing wonderful. We got Uncrustables in the freezer here at DNHQ. It's a good time to be alive.
It's a great time to be alive. It's a great time to be a Dodger fan. Yesterday, they had the tough loss to the Diamondbacks, but still, this team is primed and ready to have a fantastic postseason. One of the luxuries they have with the record that they have is they can set their rotation the way they want. They have a few weeks to put this bullpen together to allow some guys that have been injured to come back and reestablish themselves and get some rest before October begins. But we're going to talk about the postseason locks when it comes to the starting rotation, when it comes to the bullpen. We've got some injury updates as well, but we're going to start right at the top. With the starting rotation, we've been strong advocates for having Julio Urias as the game one starter. I think you got Clayton Kershaw as your game two starter, but who are you going with as your game three starter if you're the Dodgers?
Well, I'm already immediately different than you because I've got Tony Gonsolin slotting into that game two as an opener. He's not going to be built up to a full starter's workload by the time we get to the NLDS, even though he has about 2 weeks. He's going to have less than 2 weeks, really, honestly, to build up a pitch count. You get him out there, 3 innings, and you separate Julio, you separate Kershaw into game 3. Just gives your rotation a little bit of length. So I'm already different than you there. That's my guy.
I have my doubts.
Game 4.
I'm a little skeptical that he's going to be out there on the mound for the Dodgers early as you expect him to be. I think it's just a fantastic strategy. You do want to use him as an opener, even have a traditional opener come out, throw that first inning, and then you have Tony Gonsolin pitching 2, 3, 4 innings out of that. But I just don't think at this point you have him as your game 2 starter at home at Dodger Stadium. I think that's earmarked for Clayton Kershaw. He's been that man since he's been back. He's been virtually unhittable, save for that first inning where he had the bases loaded walk. He's been outstanding, just straight shoving for the Dodgers. I think you go Julio Urias. I think you go Clayton Kershaw. Moving on, I think the more interesting conversation is about the bullpen, about how they're going to use some of these guys at the back of the rotation. Are they going to slot them into the bullpen? How are they going to fit guys in like possibly a Gonslin, an Anderson, an Andrew Heaney? And then it's stacked with other fantastic pitchers as well. You have Evan Phillips, Alex Vesia, Chris Martin, Blake Trinan, then Brusdar Graterol hopefully will be back. Yancy Almonte hopefully will be back. Caleb Ferguson has been a little shaky of late. You're seeing him allow more hits. You're seeing him not miss as many bats. And then Tommy Kainley is the guy that's really thrown a wrench into the whole bullpen conversation because he's looked really good in 2 2/3 innings. He hasn't allowed a run. He has a postseason ERA of 2.33. He's the guy they brought in to be a weapon, knowing he wasn't going to pitch in 2021. So I find it hard to believe that this organization wouldn't want to utilize him in some capacity. But my first question for you is, there's been a lot of positive spin about these currently injured Dodgers relievers.
Yeah, fair.
Do you think that it's a little unrealistic to think that they'll come back 100% healthy and ready to go? The Blakes, the Brusdars, the Yanceys, guys like that.
I mean, it is unfair. You can't assume that these guys are immediately going to come back and just be throwing gas, throwing perfect innings, whatever the hell it may be immaculate innings or something like that. You do have a reasonable doubt, though, that these are professional hitters. They've gone through their progression in the minor leagues during their minor league rehab stints. The only reason these guys should be coming back to the big leagues is because the team, the medical, the pitcher themselves feel that they can get outs at the highest level, and that's what they need to be doing. And they're going to need to be doing that in October if they're on that roster. And there's definitely a lot of question marks in there. I would say, really 3 spots sort of up for grabs, it feels like.
Yeah, when you look at this bubble right now, when you look at the end of this bullpen, you talk about guys like a Caleb Ferguson or a Craig Kimbrel, Chris Martin. He's been very impressive with the Dodgers, an ERA at 1.8. So he's been a guy that's gotten it done. But when you look at the bubble, the bullpen bubble, you talk about guys like Tommy Kainley, Phil Bickford, David Price, Justin Brule. Out of those guys, which of them do you think has the best chance to make this pen?
So you also got to mention Yency Almonte in there because
he's already in my lock.
Oh, he was on your lock. Ooh, man, that's tough because the guys we know should be back. Trinan Gratterall. There's also a David Price in there. On the outside looking in for me, it's kind of Kainley, Bickford, Almonte. We know like somebody like a Justin Brule, he's going to be off. He's a non-option. But my bullpen. So I got Heaney as a long reliever. It's obvious. He's not going to be a starter, and he's going to give us some bombs in long relief. At middle relief, you got Martin, Ferguson. He makes it. Kainley, I think they got him for this reason. And even if Yency had like a long, solid stretch of the middle of the season, he's also been gone for 2 months. So you don't know if you're going to get the same guy back. I guess I'm kind of going off the rails here a little bit. So I would give it to Kainley over him. We know Bickford's going to be off. I don't think Brusdar gets a roster spot, at least in the early throws of the postseason. That's where I'm at. Set up, we got Trinan, Phillips, Vesia, and Kimbrel. I don't have a closer. That's what my bullpen looks like.
Interesting. I mean, Brusdar Gratterall, he said he felt strong while facing hitters Monday, and the team expects him back in the near future. I think Brusdar Gratterall is a guy you absolutely have to include in that bullpen mix. You saw how successful he was in 2020. He really helped this Dodgers pen. And hey, but I mean, also Cody Bellinger really helped him out too by keeping that Fernando Tatis homer in the yard and then blowing a kiss to Manny Machado. So I definitely think he's a part of my bullpen mix. But I think what it comes down to is health is key. Health is wealth for this bullpen, and that is going to be the biggest question. And the question I have is, I also have Andrew Heaney as a part of the NLDS roster, and I think that he won't be used in the traditional bullpen sense. I think he's going to be the incredible bulk. He gives you multiple innings of relief. Hopefully he can keep the ball in the yard. He has shown some progress. He had allowed 11 home runs in his last 5 games before his last start against San Francisco, and he ends up pitching very well. 4 scoreless innings for Andrew Heaney. And I think what you're going to see when you consider the fact that in the NLDS, you don't have as much rest in the postseason this year, and you're going to need more bullpen depth. And that is the key. It's been increasingly a battle of the bullpens, but I think that Craig Kimbrel is a guy where, based on what happens in the next 2 weeks, if Craig crumbles again, we're going to get into his numbers in a little bit, but there's no reason for him to be in this bullpen if he can't get it done. That's just the reality. That's not some hot take, because if Craig Kimbrel can't assume his role as a closer, he can't be a setup man. You can't bring him in high leverage situations.
The numbers are there, but he's also like, advanced stats love him for some stupid reason. But if you have a guy that's going to come in and set up bases loaded or walk dudes, I can understand the concern. He's also not Kenley. They're not as beholden to him as they would have been for Kenley Jansen. Kenley Jansen would 1,000% be on any postseason roster because he's Kenley F. and Jansen, what he means to the Dodgers organization. But I can see, I don't think it happens. I do think either way he is a lock on here because 390 career saves and all that BS. Interesting take, though. Interesting take.
I mean, the advanced numbers used to love him. They don't love him in the let it go era. We'll talk about it in a little bit, because we're going to talk about that's a question I have later for you.
I thought that was part of the advanced stats, the let it go, like that right there.
That is the let it go, the X let it go.
Yeah. X Elsa, is that what it is?
The X Elsa. They got to look Elsa where for a closer, I think, deep in the postseason run. But we're going to ask that question a little bit. Who is going to be our closer beyond the NLDS? So we're going to get into that in a little bit. But next topic I want to touch on is about Tony Gonslin and how they're going to use him in October. We talked a little bit about it, and he's going to return. But do you think it's a situation where, because to me, I think one way you could look at Tony Gonslin is if you bring him back and he's not ready to go at least 75 pitches, 4 innings, is it a situation where you keep him warm, you throw some simulated games, and you get him back to being a starter for the NLCS, because that is when you're going to need at least a 4th starter? And then Tyler Anderson, it's been a little shaky. You're seeing less swing and miss. I think you're going to need 4 true starters at some point in October. So I think it is a situation where, do you want to rush a Tony Gonsolin back just to see what you can get out of him? But let's not forget, too, he's really struggled in that bullpen role. An ERA over 10 out of the pen. He's allowed 6 dingers in the postseason. So how would you use Tony Gonsolin in the postseason, not just the NLDS, but beyond?
The thing we've learned about Anthony Gonsolin is that the Catman needs to be on the prowl. He needs to be pitching. He was bad in 2020 because he had, 16 days off between his last regular season outing and his first postseason outing, and it completely derailed his feel, his mojo, and he is very much a feel pitcher with that split finger fastball. I think they can fully build him up to a 3-60, maybe a 4-75 by that NLDS. And that's why I like the idea of, hey, you know what? They have 5 days off between the end of the regular season and the start of the postseason. You have some time to throw some simulated games, really, really stretch him out. And maybe if he's not starting game 2, like I would like to see, if he's not starting game 2, maybe he's able to start game 4. And guess what? You have Andrew Heaney there as a bulk guy behind him, and it's going to be very, matchup based. They're not going to let him go 3 times through the lineup. Might not even let him go 2.5 or 1.5 times through the lineup. I understand what you're saying about maybe just kind of giving him that break and bringing him back in the NLCS. But do you feel comfortable throwing a guy in there after that long of a layoff?
I mean, that's a fair question. I just think that there's a situation where if Tony Gonsolin can't get back in time to really find out how does he get a routine coming out of the bullpen. He's comfortable coming out as a starting pitcher. He's made an all-star team. He's had the most success he's ever had. And I don't think it's fair to really compare what he could do this season with what he's done in the past. Like you mentioned, the long layoff, but also just the way he pitches this year. He's not nibbling. You're seeing him pound the strike zone. He's attacking the zone. He's more confident pitching to contact and getting outs that way. But I also think that there's a lot of hot relievers up and down this bullpen. And I think that when you talk about a shorter series that is going to be a battle of the bullpens potentially, because are you really going to see a Dustin May go past 4 innings? Are you going to see Clayton Kershaw go past 6 innings? Julio Urias is really one of the only guys you can see right now going 7 innings and beyond, and he probably won't even do that. If you look at the World Series in the last 5 seasons, the bullpen has pitched 52% of the time. So I think that if you're not confident that Tony Gonsolin can come back and be that guy, be that cat man, the great Catsby that really just turned things around this year, I say, hey, maybe you consider having an extra bullpen piece. Maybe you consider, if you look down there with the Tommy Kainleys and of the world that can really do damage and get big outs and miss bats.
You just need to have outs getters. And that's where that's where we get back into why I kind of leaned Kainley over Brusdar, because one guy can get the punch, one guy cannot. We know Brusdar, chances are very high the Dodgers don't win in 2020 without Brusdar Graterol, but guess what? He still hasn't really developed that strikeout pitch. So that's what I'm thinking there, and I agree, like, that gives him a little bit of flexibility in the rotation, it feels like to me, to have maybe one more setup guy. And that's where, you don't get a David Price on this roster, possibly in his last postseason ever, all that kind of stuff. I don't know, all over the place. There's a lot to talk about bullpen wise.
Really, the big question, though, is who will be getting the final 3 outs? Who will be the Dodgers closer? Because Craig Kimbrel, yes, a lot was made about him letting it go and switching to the Frozen song. But guess what? The advanced numbers that you talked about, they actually like him less in the Let It Go era. In the Let It Go era, 12 games, games, 12 innings pitched. I bring my facts to the fight, ladies and gentlemen. A 2.25 ERA, a .58 WHIP. Opponents are hitting 79 against him, but a 4.36 FIP, a 4.28 SIERA. The expected FIP's high. The strikeouts are lower. The hits are up. The BABIP gods that were cursing him earlier in the year, they've totally flipped the script. He has a 69 giggity BABIP now, and just look at the other day. I mean, it was a mess. He created a mess, and the expected batting average on that hit by Alcantara was 610. So if Gavin Lux doesn't make that great play, he could have blown another save. But
for sure.
I mean, what are your thoughts on Craig Kimbrel right now? Do you think that there's a chance that they leave him off the postseason roster for the NLDS?
Zero chance. That's it. Just zero chance. You seem to be on the other side of that, though.
No, I think there's zero chance because of the Dodgers' investment in him. I think they want to believe that he's a guy that can go out there and they can score enough runs and they can Kimbrel-proof a game for him. But just the thought of him coming out there in a tie game or a one-run game. It's October. I'm less afraid of Michael Myers in October than I am of Craig Kimbrel in October. I mean, let it go. Let it go. The Dodgers don't need Kimbrel anymore. He needs to be gone. He melts down like Olaf in the desert. And I'm telling you, Dodger fans, he could cost the Dodgers more in the NLDS than in the NLCS. The reason why he petrifies me in the NLDS is because it's a shorter series. If you lose a game 2, have to go on the road in a raucous environment against a better team. Now, let's remember, there's no reseeding in Major League Baseball, okay? So you're possibly going to have to face the best team in the in the DS once again, and possibly the Braves or the Mets or a team like that. We'll see how it shakes out in that division. So I think that if it gets beyond the Dodgers advance, which hopefully they do, then they'll be in a spot where, if he costs them a game in the NLCS, they have more games to work with. There's more margin for error. But to me, my big concern is he blows you a game early in the DS. To me, it's easy solution. You have if Blake Treinen comes back healthy, Fireman Phillips, Dr. Phil, he is your closer, and Craig Kimbrel, you let him go.
I don't think there's going to be, there is not going to be a closer. There's not going to be a de facto guy that gets those final outs in the 9th. And I've said this now for a few weeks on Blue Heaven, and essentially I'm ripping off Dave Vassay on this. Shout out to the boy, Dave Vassay. But it's going to be purely matchup based. You might see Kimbrel coming in the 7th inning because he's able to face 6, 7, 8 in the lineup. They want to hide him. They want to maximize the matchups. All of the paperwork, all of the computer work is going to be done. The computers are going to tell them Alex Vesia needs to be getting this guy wherever that guy comes up in the lineup. And if it's Kimbrel in the 7th, Treinen for a few outs in the 8th, and then Evan Phillips for 3 batters in the 9th, and then Vesia closes it out. It doesn't matter. They are beholden to nobody. Nobody is worthy of getting that final out. It's just whoever makes the most sense and is available in that moment. So I feel like Kimbrel is going to be not a non-issue, but he's going to be less of a factor than what we've seen and experienced so far in this regular season.
And I 100% agree with that take, is that they would and should play the matchups. It should be a closer by committee situation.
They have the paperwork. Run with the paperwork. They know what this guy.
But if you're going to play the matchups, he's not the guy to have in the back of your bullpen, because if you look at the way he struggles against lefties,
honestly, he's kind of almost a middle relief type of dude.
He's a mop-up Kimbrel-proof guy. I'm telling you. I mean, the guy, you're gonna see a Kimplosion if he comes out there in a close game in the postseason in a one-run game, just because the command isn't there. All you guys watch the games. Look where the catcher sets up. Look where the ball ends up. I mean, everyone, when I was on Twitter, I was talking about the home run they gave up to Alcantara last week. Everyone's like, "Oh, it wasn't a bad pitch." I was like, "Well, it wasn't a bad pitch because he didn't leave it middle, but it was he still missed his target by like 3 feet." So I'm telling you, Craig Kimbrel, the Dodgers have a problem, and his name is Craig Kimbrel, and I hope he turns it around, because that would be the best case scenario. But if all these bullpen pieces come back, and the question is he one of the best bullpen pieces available for those 8 spots? The answer is no. That's just the reality.
Probably not. I mean, for me, again, the guys on the outside, for me, David Price, Bruce Dark Ratterall, Phil Bickford, Yency Almonte. I don't know if I would take any of them over Kimbrel, but I also don't really feel that confident about Kimbrel over any of those names. It's a good problem to have. It's
a good problem for sure,
not the most
yeah.
perfect and fluid situation for sure. And I'm sure health and injuries are going to fix this or alleviate us of this problem when Kainley probably his arm falls off again in a couple outings, or maybe Gonsolin doesn't come back because the forearm just barking on him or something like that, and all of this.
That's why it's tough to map this.
Big waste of our time now.
Yeah, no, look, that's why it is tough to map this out, because we know that 1, someone's going to break. We know that 2, someone's not going to come back and be fully healthy, or he does come back, he makes one start, and then he's a Danny Duffy type, right? He's the Santa Claus of the Dodgers. He doesn't exist. So yeah, I think that
you got to leave your teeth out under the pillow. I think that's how Duffy comes.
Yeah, is that how it works?
I think that's how he comes out of the game. Yeah.
But I mean, look, the only thing I'm concerned about too, though, is the Dodgers. They gave Kimbrel this role for the entire season, only to switch things up and change the cohesion of the bullpen late in the game. I mean,
he's done it. He's done it before.
Yeah, he has done it before. He's also imploded before.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the 2018 World Series run by the Red Sox. They wanted nothing to do with him. They changed the locks to the Red Sox facility. Okay, I mean, they wanted nothing to do with him. I think that Kimbrel, when it comes to closers' role, he's like pineapple on pizza. He just shouldn't be there. Okay, and yeah, are you a pineapple?
That's not even a spicy take. That's an accurate take,
dude. Pineapple on pizza.
Commendable take.
Pineapple. It's like the Rob Manfred of pizza toppings. It's gross. If the Dodgers make it to the World Series, it's the final inning, the final out. Who is going to be getting the final out for the Dodgers if they win the World Series?
Funny, I was literally thinking about asking you the same question. I don't know why I saw the name and it just popped out to me, and it's not going to be this guy. It's probably going to be somebody like an Evan Phillips. But imagine just out of nowhere, Andrew Heaney getting that final out, and how stupid that would be and how exciting that would be. What if Heaney somehow turns into that 20 Julio role? Just, he's got a pretty electric stuff. He has kind of the same pitch profile, just without the cambio.
I like that take. I love that take.
It could work.
Look, missing bats is a premium in the postseason. The ability to get chase outside of the zone is something that a lot of guys just can't do. Yeah. He has that ability. The deception is there, and I'm very happy for Andrew Heaney. That was one thing I was saying on the post-game show when we won the division. Oh, this is routine. This is ho-hum. This is a formality. I'm like, dude, stuff. Andrew Heaney's the guy that got cut. He's a guy that wasn't able to experience that. Joey Gallo, all these first-timers, but I like it. So Andrew Heaney, for my Heaney heads, Heaney truthers stand up. I'm one of them.
Like April me is pissed at that take. But when's the last time you really? I can't think of the last time you've seen a true closer be the guy who gets the final out in the World Series. Maybe the Royals. I forgot who saved it for the Royals.
It's been a while.
Sale. In 18. We had Julio and I guess Dan Hudson in 19. But that kind of
Hudson in 19.
With the Nats, but. You find somebody who's on a roll by that time in October too, maybe into November. Chances are your bullpen arms, your Chris Martin's falling apart. You've run Evan Phillips into the ground. You find a way to get 3 innings or something like that, like they did with Julio. Stranger things have happened, man. It's baseball. If you can have a team win 80 games and go and win a World Series like the Cardinals did a decade ago or whatever the hell it was. All the rules have changed. Cody Bellinger can somehow become a hitter again in October, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah. Postseason's different.
No stone unturned.
Postseason's a different energy, a different vibe. Like, to me, I always say regular season's like a strong cup of coffee. The postseason's like a Four Loko with some 5-hour energy in it and a little sprinkle of cocaine. Okay, it's a different level of intensity in the postseason.
A little booger sugar in there?
A little booger sugar, yeah. So you're going with Andrew Heaney. I'm going to tell you who's going to get the final 3 outs.
Oh, here we go. Do you want a drum roll?
Did you order the code red? It's going to be Dustin May. They're going to maintain flexibility with Dustin May, and they're going to show him warming up in the bullpen. Look at it. See that? I got goosebumps. That's how I am.
I think you got to get that checked out.
I really got some. They're going to have Dustin May. They're going to order the code red. It's going to be Dustin Mayhem coming out of that pen. He's going to be lethal. He's going to be filthy, and he's going to be the guy on the mound when the Dodgers celebrate. Or if they're up by 20 runs, I want to see Hanser Alberto out there getting those final 3 outs. So either Dustin May or Hanser Alberto, but But I just hope we're having this conversation because that means the Dodgers have won it all. But thanks for rocking with us here on another episode of the Dodgers Nation Blue Heaven Roundtable. For Mr. Clint Pasillas, you can follow him at RealFRG. That stands for at effing really great, right? Effing really great.
We'll go with that one.
Okay, Chief. I thought my name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DMac_LA. And we want your takes. Give us your postseason pitcher roster. Who are the 13 pitchers that will be on the Dodgers roster in the postseason for the NLDS? It's tough. Yes, you have some injuries right now. It will shake itself out in the next few weeks, but lots of talent there. A good problem to have. We didn't even talk about Phil Bickford and some of the other guys we talked about on the Monday show. But yeah, it's going to be a tough decision for Dave Roberts, and that's what you want. You want a tough decision. So let us know down below. And also, who is going to be getting the save or the final 3 outs for who's going to get the final out for the Dodgers in the World Series when they win it? Let me know down below. Call your shot. And if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to the Dodgers Nation YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. And if you want to see us post even more Dodgers content, smash that like button. And until next time, think blue, bleed blue, and we out.